The Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, or DHSUD, is the primary government entity responsible for the management of housing, human settlement, and urban development. It was created on February 14, 2019 by virtue of Republic Act 11201. The department is a sole and main planning and policymaking, regulatory, program coordination, and performance monitoring entity for all housing, human settlement, and urban development concerns, primarily focusing on the access to and the affordability of basic human needs. RA 11201 consolidated the functions of the Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board and the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council to become DHSUD, except for adjudication, which is now handled by its attached agency, the Human Settlements Adjudication Commission. The DHSUD also exercises oversight functions on its attached agencies or key shelter agencies, namely the National Housing Authority, which acts as the country's primary shelter production arm, the Home Development Mutual Fund or Pag-ibig Fund, which focuses on national savings program and affordable shelter financing for Filipino workers, the Social Housing Finance Corporation, which undertakes social housing programs catering to the formal and informal settlers belonging to the low-income bracket, and the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, which ensures the availability of affordable housing loans to finance home buyers through secondary market for home mortgages. It has 3 bureaus that primarily perform policy development, regulatory functions, and advisory roles. The Environmental, Land Use and Urban Planning and Development Bureau, which performs human settlements planning-related functions, including formulation of planning guidelines, national urban development policies and programs, technical assistance to relevant stakeholders, and land use monitoring. The Housing and Real Estate Development Regulation Bureau, which regulates the development of subdivision and condominium and other real estate projects, including the practice of real estate service by brokers and salespersons through the formulation, promulgation, and imposition of administrative fines and penalties pursuant to Presidential Decree 957 and Batas Pambansa 220, and the Homeowners Association and Community Development Bureau that formulates policies and programs to be implemented by the regional offices, monitors proper implementation of the approved policies and programs, and capacitates regional offices in empowering the HOAs within their respective jurisdictions. The department's operations are complemented by 1 technical service, the Public Housing and Human Settlement Service, and 7 support services. It has 16 regional offices strategically located nationwide to cater to the needs in the localities. Guided by dynamism, honesty, service excellence, unity of purpose, and dedication, the DHSUD will move forward toward its vision of adequate and affordable housing, inclusive human settlements, and well-planned communities for every Filipino family.
Presenting the Organization of Socialized and Economic Housing Developers of the Philippines' Shelter Agenda for a New Decade. The Philippine Private Sector Initiative, a new human settlements and urban development agenda. Institutionalize private sector participation in policymaking under the new Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. Improving ease of doing business. Expanding housing finance and sustainable incentives programs for homebuyers. Upholding fair access to land through a genuine national land use policy. Redefining affordable housing. Promoting green building, resilient settlements, and post-pandemic approach in designing spaces. To learn more about the Organization of Socialized and Economic Housing Developers of the Philippines, please visit us at www.oshdp.com or email us at secretariat@oshdp.com.
The housing industry has evolved dramatically in the last few decades. And as we reach a very interesting time in our history, we are being called to evolve even more rapidly. And we here in the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association can help you evolve the way you should. We organize to improve our capabilities. We collaborate to synergize. We expand our network to increase our knowledge. With over 300 members nationwide and 8 regional chapters, we collaborate to improve regulatory and legislative advocacies for housing and urban development. Partnered with a DSHUD, we strive to elevate the industry to better heights, while giving back and paying forward to communities through CSR programs. With competent and dependable leadership, SHEDA capitalizes on the individual strengths of its members and magnifies their visibility through relevant presence in programs and activities pertaining to housing development. Creating a community of professional, capable, and excellent developers who exhibit dynamism, especially in the changing and evolving landscape of the housing industry. It's time to bring your journey as a developer far with SHEDA. For details on how to join, you may log in to sheda.ph. Find them on social media. Connect, network, grow with the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association.
Introducing MBC's Economy Dashboard. Access and filter key economic data in just a few clicks and view it on your phone, tablet, laptop, or desktop. You can easily select and take a screenshot of the data that you want, paste it on your presentation, and you're good to go. You also have the option to easily download the data, print it, and have your own copy, or send the PDF version via email. MBC aims to help leaders access and process economic data easily through the Economy Dashboard. Data that can be useful in understanding the current economic situation in the Philippines. Easily access our website and dashboard by saving it on your phone's home screen. Try and test it out today. Visit www.mbc.com.ph.
We live in a new world. A world that is changing faster than we ever thought possible. A world where we can either adapt or get left behind. It's not about the swiftness of the change, but the greatness of it. Social, cultural, political, but perhaps most of all, professional. Businesses are evolving in different ways, and it's opening up countless new doors for commerce. And in this moment of rapid transition, one thing remains constant. For more than a century, we have served as one of the longest and most vibrant American chambers in Asia. Time and again, we have recognized and confirmed our commitment to trade and commerce, and the good it does to our members. By bringing leaders together, by being a voice of business, by making the right connections, and by taking action on the things that matter. This is what AmCham was built for. We are here to serve the interests of Filipino and American businesses by being an avenue for valuable knowledge, effective networking, proactive advocacy, and continued affiliation, all of which contribute to the constant development of the economy. This new and shifting world is full of possibilities, but for us, it comes with a great responsibility. We are AmCham, gathering information to share and discuss the things that drive us forward, connecting leaders, governments, and businesses, taking action on commercial, economic, and even global issues, contributing to the growth of the economy that would strengthen the relationship between its members. For commerce, for progress, and most of all, for country. AmCham Philippines.
Sign up for a year and pay less than 71 pesos per month. Visit tmt.ph/digital to get your free 30 days of the Manila Times Digital Edition.
We see an opportunity to do what's right, to change business as usual, to become business as it should be, where people don't just live and work, they thrive. To do that, Colliers is committing to elevate the way we do business, to elevate the built environment. We will minimize environmental impacts in our own operations and through the services we provide our clients. We will increase diversity and inclusion in Colliers and across our procurement practices to create an atmosphere welcoming of diverse ideas and perspectives. We will promote health and well-being in our operations and through our client services to help improve lives. Together, we will elevate the built environment and build better for our collective future. For ourselves, for our clients, for our communities, for the world.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Colliers Fourth Quarter 2022 Philippine Property Briefing, our first here in Metro Manila. So it's very, very happy to see you again, JP Balboa, Robinson, Sir Carlos from Corsan. Very good to see everyone in person, Ms. Rina Ortigas. And of course, to more than 1,000 online attendees in Zoom. A big welcome to all of you and a prosperous year of the Water Rabbit to all of us. So the lucky direction this year is north. So if you're, sending important proposals or talking to a client, make sure turn on your compass and face north. I'm Maria Cristorino Hoson, Director of Office Services, Head of Tenant Representation. I will be your host and moderator today. As always, we're very excited to share with you our latest data and insights on the Philippine real estate market. Today, we will cover the office, residential, hotel, and industrial sector. But before we go into that, let us first acknowledge our partners who made this event possible. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, the Organization of Socialized Housing Developers of the Philippines, the Australia-New Zealand Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association, the Makati Business Club, the American Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Philippine Daily Inquirer through Inquirer Property, the ABS-CBN News Channel, Business World, Philstar.com, Business Mirror, and the Manila Times. For our attendees on Zoom, as usual, we will have our panel discussion at the end of the presentation. We'll feature experts from research, office, industrial, capital markets, as well as valuation and advisory. So please do not hesitate to send in your questions through the Q&A box. If you want to receive copies of our speakers' presentations, please do not leave a message in the chat box. Instead, send an email to philippines.morcom@colliers.com and our team will reach out to you. For participants here at Discovery Premia, if you have questions later for experts, please feel free to approach any of the microphones. So with that, let's begin our presentations. These are exciting times for the Philippine real estate sector. In our last briefing held in October last year, we reported that office transactions were up 72% in the first 9 months of the year compared to the first 9 months of 2021. Net take-up, on the other hand, reached 100,000 square meters. For the residential sector, we reported that rents and prices have gradually starting to increase while pre-selling demand and launches have recovered. The hotel sector too seems to be on its way to recovery. Foreign tourist arrivals reached 2.7 million in 2022, surpassing the government's target of 1.7 million. While hotel occupancy improved in the second half of 2022 due to increased holiday spending and arrival of Filipinos from abroad. Industrial demand, meanwhile, is being led by the FMCG industry, e-commerce firms, and agro-industrial locators. And quite excitingly, the country's GDP surprised with a full-year growth of 7.6, beating expectations. But are we happy for a choppy sailing this year? But are we in for a choppy sailing this year as economic headwinds, high interest rate, uncontrolled inflation, and policy missteps hamper growth prospect? What do all these mean for the property sector now that we're starting to see home buyers buying, investors investing, and corporate occupiers renewing their office lease and even expanding? And this newfound optimism going to be sustained? We will attempt to answer these and more in today's seminar. So now, let's call in our panelists. First, of course, our Managing Director, Richard Raymundo. Senior Director for Office Services, Tenant Representation, Fredrick Andaya. Senior Director for Advisory Services, Theresa Teodoro. Director for Capital Markets and Investment Services, Paul Chua. Senior Director of Valuation Services, Paul Vincent Ramirez. So are you ready, Joey? All these questions.
I am. I have no choice, but I have to be ready.
I think Joey needs to stay beside Paul.
Shift
Paul
the places, Chris. Move to my
So because of all these questions, Joey and I will be moderating the Q&A portion. We're also receiving a lot of questions online from our 1,000 attendees via Zoom. So, Joey, for the first question, I think this is for Tim.
Is there consistent demand for residential properties in Pampanga, Bulacan, and Tarlac? So essentially, Region 3, Tim. Is there consistent demand for residential properties in Pampanga, Bulacan, and Tarlac? So essentially, Region 3.
Yes, they've actually been doing well this year. So mostly in the economic segment and then some in the affordable. Also in Pampanga, no, there's been some interesting developments also in terms of condominiums. They've been doing well also even in the luxury segment.
Yes, I agree. So you have the likes of Manansala and Rockwell Development in Angeles, which is about 90% sold as of end of 2022. And even the prices, Chris, if you saw my presentation earlier, I don't know if...
I know, 200,000 square
I'm not sure if you're paying attention to my
Pampanga,
presentation, but at
always.
250,000 pesos per square meter already, prices you'd see in what? Fort Bonifacio, Makati, but now those prices are in Pampanga already.
Okay, I think this is for Kevin. Are we seeing an increase in the occupancy rate of the office sector in the next 2 to 3 years?
Okay, so we're still expecting new buildings to come up in the next 2 years. Those are the those were the buildings that were pre-committed just before the pandemic, and they have to be finished in the next 2 years. And in addition to that, we're not expecting that non-renewals or surrenders are going to stop. So we surmise that these will still continue, even more so because of the paper transfer of incentives from PEZA to BOI, which will embolden some BPOs to fully capitalize on the work from home ability. So we think in the next 2 years, it will still creep up and plateau maybe in 2025. And any improvements in the vacancy rate, so the overall vacancy rate, to start maybe 2026. We are also monitoring kasi the lease expiries that were of companies that just signed up just before the pandemic. You know, surrendering your space is not as easy as, you know, tomorrow I'm going to go out. You know, these occupiers are contractually bound to landlords to finish their contracts, lest there would be penalty. So, you know, we are monitoring those leases. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
This one's for Richard. Richard, it's time to dust off the crystal ball. What trends are you seeing in the property sector now that the market is gradually returning to its pre-pandemic status?
Okay, let's go similar to what you said on what to expect on the different sectors. So office, I think we've turned the corner. We're seeing a positive net take-up. Yes, we're not yet back to the 500,000, 1 million net take-up POGOs, but you're already seeing at least more than 100,000 of net. And then in terms of transactions, you're already up more than 40% year on year. So that's good. So that's the positive. I think it's going to continue. The overhang is on the supply. I think that's what's keeping the vacancy high. But in terms of transactions, it's happening. So that's good. Residential, I think we're now seeing more luxury segment type of development just because of construction cost is high. Your land values remain high. So you're now forced to price your projects at a very high level. So good example is, if you look at the MCI, their last project is how much? 250,000 per square. That's about 15 million. That's a DMCI. And then now you have the Rockwells and the others at 100 million pesos per unit. So it's at that level already. What's getting that pressure now is the 3 to 10 million, because it's getting very difficult to start developing at that price range. And then I think for retail, you've mentioned the revenge spending. That's going to continue. I think if you read a lot of the press releases from the different developers, they're already back or very close to pre-pandemic spending and pre-pandemic footfall in the mall. What's starting to be different is, if you look at the malls right now, it's a lot of domestic demand. You look at our tourist arrivals, we've only clawed back, Joey's at only 25% of our pre-pandemic arrivals in terms of tourism. Of course, China is still not there. So again, look at Louis Vuitton, look at the lines forming at Louis Vuitton. It's all domestic. There's really not much of a Chinese buyer right now. So it can only go up once we start opening to that China that we're missing right now. And then for hotel, as Joey mentioned, revenge vacation and travel. I think that will be the key theme for this year. So overall, I think it's turning a corner where we're going up. Some sectors faster than the others, just because of the supply.
Thank you, Richard. Since you've been traveling, Joey, this question's for you. Which emerging tourist destination do you think the hospitality industry can look into over the coming years?
Well, only business travel, not leisure. But I think for the hotel sector in general, we're very positive. As I mentioned, 2023, record high supply, about 4,000 new hotel rooms that will be turned over. And then average daily rates are definitely growing at a much faster pace, even faster than the 14% that we recorded for 2022, after a contraction of 20% in 2020 and 2021. And because of this revenge travel that we have been seeing, foreign hotel operators are now taking a second look at the Philippines and looking at this development pipeline. 42% of new hotel rooms 2023 to 2024 are foreign brands. So definitely we are starting to see revenge travel kicking in, and there's a lot of optimism in the market, and average occupancies will probably hover between 60 to 80%. Phil hotel operators already saying that their members already recording this occupancy. So it's only a matter of time before we climb back to those pre-pandemic occupancy rates.
Before we ask the other questions, Danes, I need to assign you to go around and see if there are other questions from the people on site. So a lot of interest on POGO. Have they returned in the Philippines already? So I'll take this question. So right now, in Metro Manila, we still have approximately 670,000 of POGO space. In 2022 alone, we've closed 40,000 square meter of POGO. So they're here. Joey and I also meet with Chinese brokers. So right now, they also share that most of the POGO operators that decided to stay, they've converted their business. It's called PIGO, Philippine Inbound Gaming Operations. And they're also using the special visa If you're 35 years old, you can retire in the Philippines. They also use this visa to purchase residential condos. So they're the ones driving also the purchase of condos in certain areas in Metro Manila, also opening businesses. You take advantage of opportunities and setting up coffee shops, salons, various restaurants in the Bay Area. So that's for Pogo. For
Samgyeopsal shops.
Samgyeopsal. Joey?
For Paul Ramirez, so what's your opinion about Quezon City's plan on taxing using market value instead of zonal value? Is that realistic, and how do we ensure fairness in assessment?
Okay, so for the RPT, so there's been a push. I think Quezon City has been the first one to really update their schedule of market value, whereby at least it has doubled the original schedule of market value. Of course, the reaction of the homeowners there, of the property owners, is their real estate tax will obviously increase. But what they don't know is it's also in the power of the local government to temper the assessment level, whereby the taxes will not be that high, and the schedule of market values across the country will be updated. So this will be due to there is a bill in Congress right now, the Valuation Reform Act, wherein all the valuations, the land values, property values will be updated, and so there will be an increase in the schedule of market value. But of course, local governments can always adjust the assessment level to control the increase in real property taxes.
Thanks, Paul R. I'm going to put the other Paul on the spot. If I have 100 million lying around and ready to be invested in a timeline of 20 years, which area and sector for real estate development would be the best bet for your investment to grow?
It's hard to answer that question if you don't have 100 million in your bank, no? I guess if you looked at the slides of Joey earlier, we showed capital values appreciating throughout the years. We're tracking mostly the three sectors, BGC, Makati, and Rockwell. So in my opinion, if I have that much money, I'll probably buy, there's an available Rockwell now for 100 million. I'll probably buy that in 10 years. In 20 years, it might be double. I can also look at the secondary market. Secondary market is about a third of what it's selling, what the brand new ones are selling now, and it's still at a very good price because we know that in those areas it's properly managed. The area is very near CBDs, right? So the opportunity for more growth in what's the holding period? 20 years, right? So in 20 years, the 40 million might be 120 million. So I could buy a couple now if I have 100 million. Thank you.
Chris, how will you invest your 100 million pesos?
Yeah, that's every time there's lottery, right? Danes and I always love to dream, if I had 100 million, where will I put it? Definitely in emerging cities, emerging provinces, and because of infrastructure, a lot of opportunities out there that we should really take advantage of.
Do you think now is the right time to invest?
Of course.
If
Not
not
tomorrow,
now, then when? Yeah.
not yesterday, but now. I think, Danes, there's a question from the audience there.
Yes, we have a question from Miguel Bengson from Ayala.
Hi, Migs. Good to have you back.
Miss you guys.
Miss you too, Migs.
Yeah, there have been reports of some BPOs that have pulled out of the Philippines or transferred to other markets like India. So, could you give us some insight on what the decision-making process is like for those kinds of companies and what the industry can do proactively to sustain our growth and our occupancy?
Well, it's the first time I'm hearing it. What are the reasons stated by your source?
Just the few examples of yung mga iniwang space in some markets, and they're totally pulling out their Philippine operation.
Okay. We'll find out more about it, Miguel. It's the first time I'm hearing it, so I'll talk to you.
We'll get back to you on that question. Rui?
For Paul Ramirez, what's your forecast for real estate
Your crystal
values
ball, as Rich
and
would always
market
tell us.
Market forces, rather. Forecast for real estate values and market forces.
Yeah, since we've opened up the market, The mask has been off. Travel is more convenient right now. I think all the sectors will improve. We'll see improvement across all sectors. With the return to office, condo, especially in the CBDs, will improve as well. So vacancy is dropping, rents is improving, values will definitely improve as well.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, time to ask my travel buddy. Is it advisable to pursue BPO buildings in the coming years, especially in Mindanao?
Yeah, so as shared, I mean, when we went there, when we went to Iligan last week, people were telling us, are you sure you're going to go there? Is it safe? And when we went there, it's safe. They were happy with President Duterte's term. I think he really put in peace and order there, as well as infrastructure developments. And as shared, Joe and I actually saw that there is talent in Mindanao. The good schools are there. And if you look at the culture of people from Mindanao, they really take pride in their academic excellence, their achievement. When you go around northern Mindanao, you see tarpaulins of all the achievements of most of the people there. So definitely there are opportunities in Mindanao. Just follow again where the talent is, where there's peace and order, where there's infrastructure. Then those are the definite provinces that will be next on the line, aside from Davao and Cagayan de Oro.
The next question is of Paul Chua. In the industrial sector, will the bullish performance of the logistics market continue further into 2023, or do you see possible surplus or slowdown in take-up of warehouse space, both rent and for sale?
I think your table earlier showed that vacancies actually went down. Even for the past couple of years, we're seeing a lot of new supply coming into the market. I don't see it slowing down. In fact, I'm seeing more growth in terms of last mile delivery, the logistics market, especially online shopping. It's still here to stay. So I think in the next few years, warehouse specifically for that will still be a very good bright spot for industrial.
Wait, I think before we go, there's another question from the audience. Danes?
Good afternoon from the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association. The government has recently announced the building of some 1 million housing units annually all throughout the country. How will this impact on your perspective on the Philippine property market?
Tim?
So this deals more with yung pambansang pabahay ni President Bongbong Marcos. So this will basically help address the housing backlog that's been troubling our country for a long time. And they have a financial structure in place that's supposed to help developers participate more, no, in this project and supplying more of the socialized housing units to the people. And then the interesting thing about this is they'll make use of some of the idle lands of the government. That way, it's utilized efficiently because they're trying to push for more vertical type of socialized housing developments. No? So this will help address the housing backlog and also improve upon general economic conditions in the country.
Thanks, Tim. This is for Dom and Kevin. Will we be experiencing a decrease in demand for office spaces following the layoffs of major tech companies?
Sorry, about tech layoffs, no?
Layoffs of tech companies.
Yeah, that has been in the news over the past 2 weeks, no? Google laid off 12,000 workers, Amazon 7,000, and others more over the past year. But we haven't heard any major effects yet to the Philippines, if not actually more outsourcing and more inquiries for outsourcing here in the Philippines, as per my conversations with the associations about that specific news. So the press release in the US is that the layoffs happened because of overhiring during the pandemic, because of the drive to more digitalization. However, we think this is actually a business decision by these companies and taking advantage of the cost arbitrage here in Manila. So it makes sense that we would actually benefit because of these developments in the US.
Thanks, Kevin. I want to ask Chris this. You mentioned the PIGO earlier. Now, is the POGO sector still relevant? If not, where will the office demand come from moving forward?
So I shared there's approximately 600,000 square meter of POGO space still. This in 2022, we saw POGO new setups coming from Vietnam, Korea, and we still see them expanding in 2023. So definitely, of course, that the take-up of space may not be as huge prior to pre-pandemic, but we see new gaming operators coming in the Philippines. And where will new demand come from? Very positive news also. We've seen increase in transaction. Also, a percentage of this is new setup companies. So I think in the next report, you'll see the new names of new setup companies entering the Philippines.
Thanks, Chris. Either Dom or Kevin, is the work from home and the PEZA to BOI move detrimental to office demand?
Okay. Before we ask that, I think Danes.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Rosario Cahucom Bradbury. I'm from Contact Center Association of the Philippines. As you know, I'm very pleased that the IT BPM industry has been part of your analysis, has been one of the driving challenges. My question is, our objective is really to put at least, as you mentioned, 50% of the workforce in the provincial areas. That's one. And then we're following the digital cities that has been laid out by the DICT. Are you also considering this, therefore, in the real estate development where all the digital cities are? And what challenges are you having with the LGU in terms of the implementation of this?
Dom, when you want to answer, I can add on after you.
Yes, we're fully supportive of that. It's just that I think in the initial implementation phase, the almost equal split could not be achieved because of some challenges like, say, the availability of space. Although many of these companies are working with the LGUs, as you mentioned. The LGUs can identify a government building to accommodate them initially, and then they can hire on a work-from-home basis. But one challenge that we have identified together with a big BPO company when we looked at a certain province is that they could not easily implement the work-from-home strategy because of the spotty internet connection. That's one, because they need to look at the reliability and consistency of the internet connection as well as the power. And you know that we have a looming power crisis. So these are the two main deterrents also in terms of the implementation of this 50-50 expansion of the BPOs.
Yeah, and to add on, we just gave a talk actually in Liga on how to make their province competitive. Because right now they're at the end at number 33. And we told them, what Dom shared, that really for the government to put up space, because the challenge really is there's no readily available BPO space. And Kevin shared that healthcare BPO is coming to the Philippines. Pangasinan has always been in the map of healthcare BPOs. We've been going there the past 5 years, but there's no ready BPO space. So Danes and I will be in Urdaneta next week, meet the mayor to convince them. You have the workforce there, you have the T-Plex, that makes it very accessible, but there's no BPO-ready space. Even in Iligan, when we went there was no BPO-ready space. So Colliers is there helping them how they can really make their province ready for all these opportunities.
Okay, thanks, Rosario.
I just want to follow up. So I just want to comment, I'm very pleased that the real estate industry is doing all of this, because really in the ITBPM Roadmap 2028, 4 levers of acceleration. Infrastructure is very key, talent, government policies, and brand and marketing. And if we cannot run as fast as the industry, we will lose the opportunity for the GDP growth for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosario. Danes, any more questions from the audience?
We got one through me. So the question is from Sir Carlos. He wanted to ask, what is the impact of Chat AI on the office take-up?
Actually, I was playing with ChatGPT just before this brief. It's a very interesting but very somewhat terrifying program. So it's just this website. It's a conversational AI. And then actually the question that I gave that AI is explain global economics to a kid and he explained it in such a laymanized, kid-friendly manner, such well. It very comprehensive and complete in the response. So it's going to be a disruptor for sure. I think it will disrupt the gig economy first, which those workers are really focused on content creation and creatives, because this program can create things like that. So I think the challenge for us is really to upskill ourselves, our talent, to be able to keep abreast with these technological changes. Because just playing with it earlier, it's something that I think that cannot be stopped anymore. So we just need to adapt, and we need to think more clearly about how talent is developed here in this country. Because aside from competition from other countries, like traditionally from India, and even now in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia for tech, we also have to compete now with AI. So, it's really, now is the time to upskill and to improve ourselves.
You should look it up. How many of you are familiar with ChatGPT? Oh, still not a lot in this room. So look it up. This program passed the US bar exam.
Deans?
One of the questions that we were asked this morning when we were talking to one of our biggest BPO partners was the difficulty that they were facing regarding transitioning from PESA to BOI. And in fact, we have data showing that there was a slowdown in terms of taking up office space, and it was because of the transfer, the documentation, the requirements for doing the transfer. So what can you say that we can do to assist with the outsourcing industry in terms of their transfer to BOI so that they can take up more space as they've projected?
What we can do to assist?
Well, I think the BPOs are more adept in terms of that process. What is just clear even before the passage of the CREATE law is that the passage of the CREATE law, we already saw that it will really change the landscape for the BPOs, because the BOI will be at par in terms of the tax incentives, and the BOI does not require the BPOs to be located in certain locations. So that's really a game changer. And in relation to the question earlier from Rosario of CCAP, one of the things that we emphasized when we did the Vismin property briefing last year when we were in Cebu is that local developers who have properties in the provinces can already start building. They don't need to ascertain or determine if they can secure PESA, because that has been the case for the longest time, and that really prevented developers from building more office spaces in the provinces. That challenge is already gone because of CREATE law. So, continue to monitor the regulations. I mean, it's really difficult. It's unstable at the moment because there are a lot of gray areas in terms of what have been passed already. But we know that 400 BPO PESA registered business enterprises have moved already to the Board of Investment. So that happened in a matter of 6 months, and I think a lot of them will continue doing that, at least in the paper transfer, until they are able to create new entities for their expansion plans. I think moving forward that it's going to be clearer in terms of the direction of the BPOs, or specifically those who really intend to exploit the opportunities in the provincial locations.
Thanks, Dom. This is for the two polls. And Tim, with land values increasing in the CBDs, is the redevelopment of old buildings in the CBD sustainable, or does it push developers to create new CBDs outside of Metro Manila? Part of my RESI discussion earlier.
I'll start. We are seeing a lot of redevelopment happening now. Just recently, I think we recorded the sale of an old building in Makati, right? But nevertheless, developers, at least those that we are talking to, are always on the lookout for new areas outside of the major CBDs, thereby trying to create new locations, new mixed-use locations for them. As usual, it's the township concept that they are trying to still continue to put into their pipeline. I think one of the recent is in Central Luzon. We're seeing some in the Visayas region as well. So I think it will continue because once the supply has been in the market or has been taken up by the market, it's only natural for them to continue on to their next area for pipeline.
Yeah, to supplement what Paul said, really, yes, it's still good, no, to find small plots of land within CBDs, but these are very limited. The supply is low. And so for most developers, they really have to go outside Metro Manila to look for larger parcels where they can also generate more value as well. So there's a lot of interest in developing mixed-use developments, pump priming those areas so they can generate higher values through the synergy of different uses that they have. But also, when opportunity strikes for within CBDs, they also grab onto that as well.
Thank you, Paul. See another question. Any update on the data center industry in the Philippines? This is from an online audience. What are the preferred locations for data center clients? Updates on data center.
I think there's a couple now operating in the Philippines. Most are still located within the vicinity of Metro Manila. So I think more recent is the one in Cainta, in eastern Metro Manila. There are new developments in Laguna. The Neo Group is almost, I think they just finished their first green data center in the Philippines. So the outlook is very good, I think. Other locations, I think it would make sense for them to locate outside because land values are cheaper, power is more stable. So I think moving forward, that's the trend that we will see for data centers at least.
Question for Richard. Should developers do city hotels or resorts?
Well, you showed your slides a while ago that even during the pandemic, your high-end leisure resorts did very well. The fact that your Aman is at 1,500 US, you have others at close to 500 US. It has proven to outperform the city. I think for the Philippines, given our geography and what we have, it's interesting that there's still a lot of other locations that are not yet maximized in terms of hotels. You could go to certain provinces and there's still a lot of, you still are looking for a better hotel, even major cities, actually. So there is a good opportunity for hotels outside of Metro Manila. That's why.
Thank you, Rich. I think we have a question from the audience. Danes?
Hi, another question from Anne.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Anne Flores from Great Work Flexible Workspaces. So I'd like to ask a question because it was mentioned earlier that there is a growing demand for BPO-ready offices outside Manila. So being a provider of flexible workspaces, I'd like to hear your insights about how do you see flexible workspace solution as the potential or possible solution to the increasing demand of BPO-ready offices outside Manila?
Actually, I think it's a great solution, especially for provincial location, because it serves as a ready landing site for BPOs to enter a particular market. And more than a landing site, it could serve as a incubation for locators that will eventually need full-scale formal BPO space in that area. So yeah, we encourage operators to spread out, partner with landlords, local developers, and
even
convert.
LGUs.
mixed use, convert existing property assets, even if these are not necessarily hotel office space. Right, for example, hotels, function rooms of hotels can be converted into co-working spaces that can be, the incubation and landing sites of these outsourcing companies.
And we'll also share with your Flex report, and after this presentation. It's almost 4 o'clock. I think we're down to the last question. This is for you, Joey. Are we too dependent on the Chinese market for the revival of our economy?
For the revival of the economy, well, let me first start with the leisure sector. I think that for the hotel sector, even as the Chinese figures have been wanting, we've been able to see occupancies rising, average daily rates also increasing across the Philippines. If we look at the arrivals, we're also targeting the non-traditional markets, and that's a major reason why the DOT has been busy going to UK, Italy, Saudi Arabia to attract more tourists. But I think for POGOs, we're no longer seeing that. The POGOs used to account for 13% of leasable space in Metro Manila. That is down to about 5%. But I think we want to attract more Chinese manufacturing investments. And outside of Japan, there have been reports that a lot of Chinese manufacturers are looking for potential sites, alternative locations. And I think it's about time that we corner these manufacturing investments. And after all, manufacturing is a major plank of the recovery story being promoted by the current administration. So it's definitely a plus if we attract those manufacturing investments. Going back to the leisure sector, 155 million outbound Chinese tourists, 250 billion in annual tourism spending. And if we only corner 2-3% of that, that is humongous, and that will definitely do wonders for the hotel leisure sector. So overall, whether it's manufacturing or leisure, it's definitely a plus and it's a positive development if we attract and corner these Chinese tourists and manufacturers.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you to our speakers, Roi Bondoc, Kevin Jara, our panelists, Theresa Teodoro, Paul Chua, Paul Vincent Ramirez, Dom Fredrick Andaya, and Richard Raymundo for shedding light on the current landscape for the real estate sector and providing us with useful insights and recommendations as we face promising and hopefully less challenging months ahead. We would like to once again thank our event partners, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, the Organization of Socialized Housing Developers of the Philippines, the Australian-New Zealand Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association, the Makati Business Club, the American Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Philippine Daily Inquirer through Inquirer Property, the ABS-CBN News Channel, Business World, Philstar.com, Business Mirror, and the Minute Times. And to officially close our program, let's hear some final remarks from our Managing Director, Mr. Richard Raymundo.
Guys, thank you for coming over. This is our first face-to-face. What we've done is a hybrid. This is the new reality. I guess even in the office, we're hybrid. So we're going to see more of a face-to-face and the Zoom together. So I hope you got a lot of information. We've turned the corner. All of the sectors, we're already seeing positive take-ups. We have seen improvements. So it's good news from here. And hopefully this year is a better year than last year. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you to everyone who went here today and being with us in their webinar. You're welcome to reach out to our team if you have further questions, if you'd like to receive more information on the office, residential, hotel, and industrial sectors. If you'd like to stay updated on the latest news and insights on the Philippine property sector, please visit our website, colliers.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you'd like to hear more from Joey, he has a regular column in the Philippine Daily Inquirer called Colliers Review. It comes out every Saturday in the newspaper's property section. Colliers also has a regular column in Business World called Colliers Insights and the Philippine Star called Colliers Outlook. So please make sure to get copies of these newspapers as well. And finally, Joey's favorite, Colliers Inside Podcast. If you're driving, cooking, please do follow us in Spotify. Colliers, hosted by Joey. Once again, on behalf of Colliers, thank you for joining us today. I hope we will all have a great 2023. There are snacks outside, so see you outside. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Chris. Great moderating with you.
Thank you, Joey.